Kim Tae-ho wiped the sweat from his forehead as he crawled through the narrow maintenance tunnel. The metal walls hummed with energy from the massive space station around him. To everyone else, he was just another repair worker fixing broken pipes and cleaning air filters. They had no idea who he really was. The Nexus Prime station floated in space like a giant crystal. It was the heart of the Galactic Council, where alien species from across the galaxy met to make important decisions. Tae-ho had worked here for 3 years, always keeping his head down and his mouth shut. His job was simple: watch and listen. He reached the main computer room and pulled out a small device. It looked like a normal tool, but it could copy information faster than any council technology. Tae-ho plugged it into the wall and waited. Numbers and words flashed across its tiny screen. Most of it was boring stuff about trade routes and meeting schedules. But today was different. The device beeped softly. Tae-ho's eyes went wide as he read the message. The council was planning to visit Earth. After 250 years of leaving the planet alone, they wanted to see what was left of humanity. Tae-ho's hands shook as he unplugged the device. This was bad news. Very bad news. In the council chambers, tall aliens with crystal skin sat next to floating balls of light. These were the Vextar and the Lumens, 2 of the most powerful species in the galaxy. They were talking about Earth like it was an old toy they had forgotten in a closet. "The humans went silent long ago," said Admiral HFY, his crystal body glowing blue. "Our scans show life on the planet, but no cities or technology. They probably destroyed themselves with nuclear weapons, just like we predicted." A Lumen named Brightsong floated nearby, its voice like music. "Perhaps some survived. We should help them. Bring them back to civilization." Tae-ho cleaned the floor near their table, pretending not to understand their words. But he spoke their language perfectly. He had studied it for years, along with dozens of other alien languages. "A rescue mission would be good for our image," said another council member. "This one looked like a giant insect with too many eyes. The people of the galaxy would see us as kind and helpful." Admiral HFY nodded. "I agree. We should send ships to Earth within the month. If there are human survivors, we will bring them into the council as a protected species." Tae-ho almost dropped his cleaning supplies. A month. That was not much time. He finished his work and walked through the station's long hallways. Alien workers moved around him, talking in languages that sounded like singing or buzzing or clicking. None of them paid attention to the quiet human janitor. Tae-ho reached his small room and locked the door. He pulled out a communication device hidden under his bed. It looked like junk, but it was actually more advanced than anything the council had ever seen. He typed a message in code and sent it across space faster than light. Far away on Earth, Park So-ra received the message in her underground laboratory. She was a small woman with tired eyes, but her mind was sharper than any knife. She read Tae-ho's warning 3 times before she believed it. So-ra ran through tunnels carved deep into rock. The walls glowed with soft light that came from technology the surface world had never seen. She passed gardens where food grew without soil, and workshops where machines built themselves. This was New Seoul, hidden 3 miles under the old city. She reached the command center and burst through the doors. "They're coming," she said to the man at the main desk. Lee Woo-jin looked up from his work. He was the commander of Earth's secret space fleet, though no one in the galaxy knew such a thing existed. His face was calm, but his eyes showed worry. "How long do we have?" he asked. "1 month, maybe less," So-ra said. She handed him the decoded message. Wu Jin read it slowly. Around them, other humans worked at computers and holographic displays. They tracked every ship in the galaxy, watched every council meeting, and listened to every important conversation. The council thought they were the Watchers, but they were wrong. "Call an emergency meeting," Wu Jin said. "Contact all department heads. We need to decide what to do." Sora nodded and walked to a communication panel. With a few button presses, she sent messages to hidden cities around the world. Under the ice of Antarctica, humans received the call. In underwater cities beneath the Pacific Ocean, alarms began to ring. Mountain cities in the Himalayas got the news. Even the space stations hidden behind the moon were told. Humanity had been quiet for 250 years, but they had not been sleeping. Back on Nexus Prime, Tejo went about his normal work. He fixed a broken water pipe and replaced some burned-out lights. But his mind was racing. How long could Earth stay hidden? How long before the Council discovered the truth? That evening he sat in the station's cafeteria with other workers. A Kethri sat nearby, its 4 arms eating something that looked like purple soup. The alien was talking about Earth to its friends. "I heard we're finally going to help the humans," it said in its buzzing voice. "My cousin works in the fleet. He says they're preparing ships for a rescue mission." Tejo ate his food and said nothing. But inside, he was planning. There had to be a way to stop this. There had to be a way to keep Earth's secrets safe. As he walked back to his room, Tejo passed a window that showed the stars. Somewhere out, there, hidden in the dark, human ships waited. They had weapons the Council could not imagine, and technology that seemed like magic. But they also had something more important: patience. For 250 years, humanity had watched and learned and prepared. They knew every council species better than those species knew themselves. They spoke every language and understood every culture. They had seen every strength and every weakness. The question was, would that be enough? Tejo reached his room and sent one more message to Earth. It was short and simple. "Get ready. Everything is about to change." On Earth, in the hidden cities where millions of humans lived and worked, the message was received. Leaders gathered in meeting rooms, scientists checked their equipment, soldiers prepared their weapons. The 250 years of silence were almost over. Choi Min-sok stood in the center of the global command room, 3 miles beneath what used to be Seoul. Giant screens covered the curved walls, showing star maps, alien ship movements, and data streams from across the galaxy. The room buzzed with quiet activity as hundreds of humans monitored the universe above. "Status report," Min-seok said to his assistant. "All agents are in position," the young woman replied. "We have people on 847 council stations and ships. Our deep space sensors show normal traffic patterns. No unusual military movements yet." Min-seok nodded. He was a thin man with gray hair, but his eyes held the weight of terrible knowledge. As director of the Global Intelligence Network, he knew secrets that could shake the galaxy to its core. A door opened, and Yoon Hye-jin walked in. She was the chief engineer of humanity's quantum technology division, and her clothes were still dirty from working in the labs. Behind her came Jang Do-yoon, an old man whose mind had helped shape humanity's survival plan. "The Council ships will reach Earth in 3 weeks, Hye-jin said without greeting. "Our quantum sensors are tracking their fleet, 12 ships, including 2 heavy cruisers. They think they're coming to rescue primitive survivors," Do-yun added with a bitter smile. "If only they knew what they would find." Min-seok walked to the main display. It showed Earth as the Council saw it. A blue and green planet with no cities, no technology, no signs of advanced life. But that was all fake. Human technology made the planet look empty while hiding the truth below. "Show them," Minseok said. The display changed. Now it showed the real Earth. Underground cities stretched across every continent. Massive fusion reactors powered millions of homes carved into rock. Factories built in ocean trenches produced technology that made council science look like children's toys. Space elevators hidden in mountain valleys carried ships to orbit. 63 underground cities, Hyejin said, each one bigger than the largest council settlement. Total population, 4 billion humans. Do-Yun stepped forward. "We went underground in 2137, when our deep space probes first detected alien signals. The council was already ancient, already powerful. We knew that if they found us, they would either destroy us or treat us like pets." The story was one every human child learned in school. Earth's leaders had made a choice that seemed impossible: fake their own destruction and hide their entire civilization. Nuclear explosions had been set off on the surface, making it look like humanity had destroyed itself. Meanwhile, the real work began underground. The first cities were small, Do-Yun continued, just a few thousand people in each one. But we learned fast. We studied every council species, every language, every technology. We sent agents to work among them, and we prepared. Minseok touched a control, and the display showed human technology. Ships that could become invisible. Computers that thought faster than any organic brain. Weapons that could tear holes in space itself. "We didn't just copy council technology," Hyejin said with pride. "We improved it. Then we improved it again. Our quantum drives can cross the galaxy in days, not months. Our computers can predict the future by reading quantum probability. Our weapons..." She paused. "Our weapons are designed to fight things the council has never imagined." A young technician ran up to them. "Director, we have a problem. Agent Kim Taeho's cover has been blown." Minseok's face went cold. "What happened?" "A council transport ship had an accident near Nexus Prime. Engine failure, heading straight for a fuel depot. Taeho was nearby and..." The technician swallowed hard. "He saved them. Used one of our emergency devices to stop the ship. The council... Engineers are studying the device now." The room went quiet. Everyone knew what this meant. If the council figured out how the device worked, they would know it came from technology far beyond their own. "Recall Taeho immediately," Minseok ordered, "and activate Protocol 7. Protocol 7 meant bringing all human agents home. After 250 years of careful watching, humanity's secret was in danger." Hyejin pulled up a new display. "There's more. Our agents report that Admiral HFY is pushing for an immediate departure to Earth. He suspects something is wrong." Do-Yun sat down heavily in a chair. He had spent 50 years planning for this moment, but it was still coming too fast. "We always knew this day would come. The question is, are we ready?" Minseok looked around the command room. These people had spent their lives preparing for a war the galaxy didn't know was coming. They had built weapons for an enemy the council had forgotten. They had turned their entire species into a hidden weapon pointed at the dark between the stars. "Show me the fleet," he said. The main display changed again. Now it showed space around Earth's solar system. At first, it looked empty. Then Hyejin typed a command, and the hidden ships appeared. There were thousands of them. Sleek vessels that looked like metal fish floated in the dark. They were invisible to Council sensors powered by quantum engines that bent space around them. Each ship was small, but together they were more powerful than the entire Council Navy. Our ships don't use the same technology as Council vessels, Hyojin explained. We learned from studying dark energy and quantum mechanics. We can attack from multiple dimensions, move through time, and strike from impossible angles. Minseok smiled grimly. The Council thinks they're the most advanced civilization in the galaxy. They have no idea what real advancement looks like. Oh, communication alert sounded. On the screen, Kim Tae-ho appeared. He was sitting in a small escape pod, racing away from Nexus Prime as fast as he could. "Director," Tae-ho said, "I had to leave fast. The Council knows their technology couldn't have made the device I used. They're asking questions I can't answer." "Understood," Minseok replied. "Come home. Your mission is complete." As the communication ended, Do-yun stood up slowly. "It's time to make the choice we've been avoiding for 250 years. Do we stay hidden and hope the Council loses interest, or do we reveal ourselves?" Hyojin shook her head. Staying hidden is no longer possible. Too many people saw what Tae-ho did. The Council will keep digging until they find the truth. Min-seok looked at the star map showing Council ships moving toward Earth. "Then we reveal ourselves, but we do it on our terms, in our way." He turned to face the room full of technicians and analysts. "Begin Operation Dawn. Contact all department heads. Tell them the 250 years of silence are over." Across the underground cities, alarms began to ring. Not warning alarms, but signals that the long wait was finally ending. In the weapons labs, scientists activated machines that had been built but never used. In the communication centers, operators prepared to send humanity's first open message to the galaxy in 2.5 centuries. Deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, Admiral Lee Woo-jin received the order in his underwater command center. His hidden fleet of submarines began to rise toward the surface, their hulls shimmering as stealth fields deactivated. In Antarctica, vast doors opened in the ice. Ships that had been sleeping for decades came to life, their quantum engines humming with barely contained power. On the dark side of the moon, space docks hidden in craters began launching vessels that moved like ghosts through the void. Humanity was no longer hiding. Minseok watched it all from his command room. The galaxy was about to learn that Earth had never been quiet. It had been listening, learning, and preparing for a war that would determine the fate of every living thing in the universe. "Sir," a technician called out, "incoming message from Earth Defense Command. Admiral Woo-jin wants to know, should we prepare for peaceful contact or military action?" Minseok thought about the Council ships heading toward Earth. He thought about 250 years of careful planning. He thought about the enemy that waited in the dark between galaxies, the enemy only humanity knew was coming. "Tell him to prepare for both," Minseok said. "The Council is about to learn that humanity never went away. We just got better at staying hidden." Admiral HFY stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching Earth grow larger on the main screen. The blue and green planet looked peaceful and empty, just as their sensors had always shown. 12 Council ships moved toward it in perfect formation. "Begin. Orbital scans," HFY ordered. His crystal body glowed with excitement. After 250 years, they would finally see what remained of humanity. "Sir," his communications officer called out, "I'm detecting a small vessel approaching from the planet's shadow." HFY turned to look at the tactical display. A single ship was moving toward them, but it was unlike anything in the Council database. It was sleek and silver, shaped like a teardrop, and it seemed to shimmer as if it wasn't completely solid. "How did it get so close without our sensors detecting it?" HFY asked. "Unknown, sir. It appears to be using some kind of stealth technology." The alien ship came to a stop directly in front of the Council fleet. It was tiny compared to their massive vessels, but something about it made HFY nervous. Inside the human ship, Han Ji-woo checked her equipment one last time. She was Earth's first contact ambassador, chosen for this moment after years of training. She spoke 17 alien languages perfectly and understood the culture of every council species. "Ready?" asked Captain Shin Kyung-ho from the pilot's seat. Ji-woo nodded. "Open a channel to the council flagship." The communication system activated. But instead of using normal radio signals, it used quantum entanglement to speak directly to the council ship's computers. The technology was impossible by council standards. On HFY's bridge, every screen suddenly showed the same image: a human woman sitting in a chair that seemed to float in empty space. "Greetings, Admiral HFY, of the Vextar Crystal Fleets," Ji-woo said in perfect Vextar harmonic language. Her voice made the crystal being's natural frequencies ring in harmony. HFY stepped back in shock. How did this human know his name? How did she speak Vextar so perfectly? But Ji-woo wasn't finished. She turned slightly and began speaking, in Lumen light song, her words creating patterns of color that only the energy beings could understand. "Bright song of the third harmonic, your music has brought peace to many worlds." Then she shifted to the clicking language of the Kethri. "Commander Zikth, your hive's engineering skills are known throughout the galaxy." One by one, she greeted every senior officer on every ship in the fleet. She spoke their languages perfectly and knew things about them that should have been impossible for a human to know. "How?" HFY finally managed to ask. Ji-woo smiled. "We have been listening, Admiral. For 250 years, humanity has been watching and learning. We know every language in the galaxy. We understand every culture. We have walked among you as friends and allies." "That's impossible," said Commander Zikth over the communication link. "Humans destroyed themselves with nuclear weapons. Our sensors show no advanced civilization on Earth." "Your sensors show what we want them to show," Ji-woo replied calmly. "Tell me, Admiral, do you remember Agent Kim Tae-ho? He worked on Nexus Prime for 3 years, fixing your computers and cleaning your floors." HFY's crystal body flickered with confusion. "Tae-ho? The maintenance worker? He was human?" "He was one of many. For generations, humans have lived and worked among council species. We have been your janitors and your technicians, your cooks and your miners. We have watched and learned while you believed we were extinct." The council officers looked at each other with growing alarm. If humans had been among them for so long, what else did they know? "Why?" asked Bright Song, its voice full of musical confusion. "Why hide? Why not join the council openly?" Ji-woo's expression became serious. "Because we learned something that you have forgotten. There are threats in this galaxy far worse than war between species, threats that have destroyed civilizations older and more powerful than any of us." She gestured, and the space around her ship began to change. The quantum fields that kept it invisible started to shift, revealing technology that made the Council's best ships look primitive. "We did not destroy ourselves, Admiral. We chose to disappear so we could prepare for what is coming." Captain Shin Kyung-ho activated the ship's full display systems. Suddenly, the human vessel was surrounded by holographic images showing events from across the galaxy. The council officers watched in amazement as scene after scene played out. The Zektar Border War of 2298, Jiwoo narrated as one image showed alien fleets fighting. Both sides were moments away from using planet-killer weapons when a communication error led to peace talks. That error was not an accident. Another image showed a plague-stricken world. The great sickness that almost destroyed the lumens in 2341. The cure was discovered by a brilliant young scientist who had help from a janitor who suggested a different approach. That janitor was human. More images flowed past. Disasters prevented, wars stopped, scientific breakthroughs guided by helpful maintenance workers and food service staff who were never quite who they seemed to be. "You have been protecting us," HFY whispered. "We have been protecting everyone," Jiwoo corrected. "Because what threatens the galaxy threatens all of us." Bei Yuna, the quantum communications specialist, activated the ship's main display system. The space around them filled with star charts showing the galaxy's edge, where reality grew thin and space itself seemed to bend. "They are called the Devourers," Jiwoo said. "They come from beyond our galaxy, from spaces between dimensions. They consume not just matter and energy, but the basic structure of reality itself. Every few million years, they return to feed." The images showed ancient ruins on dead worlds, places where entire civilizations had simply vanished. The council officers stared in growing horror as they realized the scope of the threat. "Your own records speak of them," Jiwoo continued, "but your species have forgotten or chosen not to believe. You call them myths and legends. We call them the reason we have been preparing for 250 years. Admiral HFY found his voice. "If this is true, why tell us now? Why reveal yourselves?" "Because they are coming back," Jiwoo said simply. "Our deep space sensors have detected the first scouts at the galaxy's rim. We estimate you have perhaps 10 years before the main force arrives. The Council fleet hung in space, their officers trying to process what they had learned. The humans they had thought extinct were not only alive but had been protecting them. And now they spoke of an enemy that could destroy everything. What do you want from us? Bright Song asked. Jiwoo stood up from her floating chair. Behind her, Captain Shin activated the ship's dimensional drives. The vessel began to phase in and out of normal space, demonstrating technology the Council had never imagined. We want you to survive, Jiwoo said. We want the galaxy to have a future, but that will require you to accept something difficult. Humanity must lead the defense against the Devourers. We are the only species that has spent centuries preparing for this war. You're asking us to follow you into battle against an enemy we've never seen, Commander Zikth buzzed angrily. I'm asking you to trust us, Jiwoo replied, as we have trusted you for 250 years, as we have protected you without asking for thanks or recognition. She gestured again and new images appeared. These showed human ships rising from hidden bases across the galaxy, sleek vessels that moved like ghosts, weapons that could tear holes in space, soldiers who had trained their entire lives for a war that hadn't started yet. We are offering you partnership, Jiwoo said. We will share our technology, our knowledge, our strategies, but we cannot share our burden. The responsibility for protecting the galaxy must remain with those who understand the true cost of failure. Admiral HFY looked at his officers, then back at the human ambassador. And if we refuse? Jiwoo's smile was sad, but determined. Then we will protect you anyway, just as we always have, just as we always will, because that is what humanity does. The communication channel closed, leaving the Council fleet alone with their thoughts. On the bridge of his flagship, Admiral HFY stared at the small human ship that had just changed everything he thought he knew about the galaxy. "Sir," his tactical officer reported, "sensors are detecting massive energy signatures from Earth's surface. Whatever technology they're using is beyond our understanding." HFY nodded slowly. "Contact the Council. Tell them we need an emergency session. Everything has changed." As the Council ships began their journey home, carrying news that would shake the galaxy, Han Ji-woo and her crew prepared to return to Earth. The 250 years of silence were over. Now the real work would begin. Kwon Se-jun stood on the bridge of the battleship New Hope, hidden in the dark space between galaxies. For 30 years, he had commanded humanity's hidden fleet, fighting a war that the rest of the galaxy didn't know existed. Now, as alarms rang throughout the ship, he knew that war was about to become everyone's problem. "Report," he ordered, his voice calm despite the chaos around him. "Devourer scout ships have breached the outer perimeter," called Nam Yoon-ji from her science station. She was thin and pale from years of studying things that shouldn't exist. 17 contacts, moving fast toward the galaxy's edge. Se-jun looked at the main display. The Devourers didn't look like normal ships. They were dark shapes that seemed to bend light around them, moving through space in ways that broke the laws of physics. Where they passed, stars grew dim and space itself seemed to crack. "Signal the fleet," Se-jun commanded. "All ships to battle stations, and contact Earth Command. Tell them Phase 1 has begun." In the Council chambers on Nexus Prime, Admiral HFY was trying to explain the impossible to a room full of skeptical aliens. Since returning from Earth, he had been telling them about humanity's survival and the coming threat. Most still didn't believe him. "You're asking us to accept that a species we thought extinct has been protecting us for centuries," said High Chancellor Vexmore, her crystal body glowing with doubt. "And now they claim an ancient enemy is returning to destroy everything?" "I know how it sounds," HFY replied, "but I saw their technology. I spoke with their ambassador. They know things about us that should be impossible." Bright Song floated. Nearby, its energy form pulsing with concern. "Even if we believe the humans exist, why should we trust them? Why now?" Before HFY could answer, every screen in the chamber lit up with an emergency signal. The image showed Oh Sang-wook, a human soldier in battle armor, speaking from what looked like a warship's bridge. "Council leaders," Sang-wook said, his face grim with exhaustion. "My name is Commander Oh Sang-wook of the Terran Defense Force. For 20 years I have been fighting advanced scouts of the enemy you call myth. Today they have begun their final approach to our galaxy." The screen split to show images from the galaxy's rim. Dark shapes moved between the stars, leaving trails of twisted space behind them. Where they passed, entire solar systems simply stopped existing. "The Devourers have returned," Sang-wook continued. "This is not a drill or a deception. This is the beginning of the war we have spent 250 years preparing to fight." High Chancellor Vexmore leaned forward, her crystal form flickering with alarm. "Those images, what are we seeing?" "Reality being consumed," Sang-wook replied. "The Devourers don't just destroy matter and energy. They consume the fundamental structure of space and time itself. Watch." The image focused on a star system at the galaxy's edge. As the council members watched, a dark shape passed near it. The star didn't explode or burn out. It simply stopped being, as if it had never existed at all. "How do you fight something like that?" Commander Zicketh buzzed from his section of the chamber. With technology they designed specifically for this war, came a new voice. Han Jiwoo appeared on screen beside Sang-wook. For 250 years, every piece of human technology has been built with one purpose: stopping the Devourers. New images appeared, showing human ships unlike anything the Council had ever seen. They moved through dimensions, fired weapons that seemed to heal space instead of destroying it, and worked together with a coordination that was almost supernatural. "Our ships don't use the same principles as yours," Jiwoo explained. "We learned to harness dark energy, to manipulate quantum consciousness, to weaponize time itself. We built an entire civilization as a weapon against this enemy." Admiral HFY stepped forward. "What do you need from us?" "Everything," Sang-wook replied bluntly. "Every ship, every soldier, every scientist. But most importantly, we need you to follow our lead. We are the only species that understands how to fight this enemy." The chamber erupted in angry voices. Species that had led the galaxy for millennia were being asked to follow humans they had thought extinct. Pride warred, with survival instinct. "You're asking us to surrender command of our own forces to a species that hid from us for centuries," High Chancellor Vexmore said coldly. Jiwoo's expression didn't change. "I'm asking you to let the people who have been preparing for this war actually fight it. You can keep your pride, or you can keep your lives. You cannot keep both." On the rim of the galaxy, the battle was already beginning. Commander Sang-wook's ship, the Last Stand, led a small fleet of human vessels against the Devourer scouts. The enemy ships moved like living shadows, bending space around them as they advanced. "Target the reality anchors," Sang-wook ordered. "Don't try to destroy them, contain them." The human ships fired weapons that looked like streams of silver light. Where the beams hit the Devourer vessels, space seemed to solidify, trapping the dark shapes in bubbles of stable reality. "How are they doing that?" asked Nam Yun-ji, watching the battle from her sensor station. "Quantum consciousness manipulation," Sang-wook replied. "We learned to use awareness itself as a weapon. The Devourers exist partially outside normal space, but consciousness can reach them anywhere." One by one, the scout ships were contained. But Sang-wook knew this was just the beginning. Deep space. Sensors showed thousands more contacts moving toward the galaxy. Back in the council chambers, the debate continued, but it was interrupted by reports from across the galaxy. Council worlds at the rim were reporting strange sensor readings. Stars were going dark. Space itself seemed to be breaking down. "The outer colonies have gone silent," reported a Kethri technician. "No distress signals, no destruction. They're just gone." High Chancellor Vexmore's crystal body went pale. "How many?" 17 systems in the last hour. "The effect is spreading." Bright song floated to the center of the chamber. "We need proof. Send a scout ship to investigate one of the affected systems." Admiral HFY shook his head. "I'll go. Myself." Within hours, HFY's ship reached the coordinates of a council colony that had gone silent. His sensors showed nothing. No debris, no radiation, no signs of battle. The entire solar system had simply ceased to exist. "This is impossible," his navigator whispered. "No," HFY said quietly. "This is the Devourers." He opened a communication channel to the council chambers. "High Chancellor, I am at the coordinates of Colony 77 Alpha. There is nothing here. Not just no life, not just no planets, no space. It's as if this entire region of the galaxy was never created." The silence that followed was deafening. Finally, High Chancellor Vexmore spoke. "What are your recommendations?" "Admiral, accept the human offer. All of it. Give them command authority over all Council forces, and pray that 250 years of preparation will be enough. On Earth, deep beneath New Sol, Choi Min Seok received the news with grim satisfaction. The Council was finally ready to listen, but he also knew it might be too late. "How long before the main force arrives?" he asked Admiral Si-Jun over quantum communication. 6 months, maybe less, Se-Jun replied from his command ship. "The scouts were just testing our defenses. The real invasion will be beyond anything the galaxy has ever seen." Min Seok looked at the strategic displays showing human forces across the galaxy. Hidden fleets emerged from dark matter clouds. Weapons platforms disguised as asteroids came online. Soldiers who had trained their entire lives for this war took their positions. "Begin Operation Guardian," Min Seok ordered. "All human forces are now active, and send a message to the Council. If they want to survive, they need to start thinking like humans." Across the galaxy, the greatest war in cosmic history was about to begin. And humanity, the species everyone thought was extinct, would lead the fight to save everything that lived. But first, they had to convince the galaxy that survival was more important than pride, and time was running out. Im Jae-hyuk stood in the command center of the massive space station Unity, watching thousands of displays that showed the greatest battle in galactic history. As Supreme Commander of the Unified Defense Force, he controlled fleets from dozens of species, all fighting together against an enemy that wanted to erase everything that had ever existed. "Status report," he called out to Song Mi-young, his chief strategist. "The Devourer main force has entered our galaxy," Mi-young replied, her fingers dancing across holographic controls. "Estimated numbers, over 10,000 ships, they're spreading. Out to attack multiple systems at once." Jae-hyuk nodded grimly. This was the moment humanity had spent 250 years preparing for. The enemy that had destroyed countless civilizations was finally here. Around the command center, beings from across the galaxy worked side by side. Vexitar crystal forms calculated battle plans with Lumen energy beings. Kethri hive minds coordinated with human AI systems. For the first time in galactic history, every species was truly united. "Sir," called Ko Dong-min from his station. "Incoming transmission from Admiral Kexvi's fleet." The main screen lit up, showing the Crystal Admiral on his ship's bridge. Behind him, human and alien officers worked together at control stations. "Commander, Kexvi said, "my fleet is in position at the Rigel defensive line. Human technology has been integrated with our ships. We're ready for battle." Jae-hyuk smiled slightly. 3 months ago, the Council species had been too proud to accept human help. Now they fought with human quantum weapons and followed human battle plans. Survival had a way of changing minds. "Understood, Admiral. Remember, don't try to destroy the Devourer ships. Contain them. Force them into stable reality where our weapons can work." Across the galaxy, similar conversations were happening. Human. Technology had been shared with every Council species, but it required new ways of thinking. The Devourers couldn't be fought with normal weapons. They existed partially outside space and time, requiring tactics that seemed impossible. In the Andromeda sector, Commander Oh Sang-wook led a mixed fleet against a Devourer attack force. His ships moved in perfect coordination, appearing and disappearing through dimensional space. "Target their reality distortion fields," Sang-wook ordered. "All ships, fire consciousness anchors. Beams of silver light streamed from human and alien vessels alike. The weapons didn't carry energy or matter. They carried focused awareness, the quantum force of observation that could pin the devourers into normal space long enough to fight them. Where the beams struck, the dark enemy ships became solid. Suddenly vulnerable, they could be damaged by conventional weapons. Council fleets opened fire with everything they had, but the devourers had weapons too. Dark energy lances that unraveled matter at the atomic level. Reality bombs that made sections of space forget how to exist. Entropy waves that aged ships to dust in seconds. "We're taking heavy losses," reported a Lumen captain over the communication network. "These things are beyond anything we've ever faced." "Hold position," Jae-hyuk commanded from the Unity. "Trust the plan. Trust each other. On Earth, deep beneath." Seoul, Choi Min-seok watched the battle through quantum sensors that showed him everything happening across the galaxy in real time. Beside him, Yoon Hye-jin monitored the most secret weapon humanity had ever built. "Quantum consciousness network is stable," Hye-jin reported. "All human neural implants are synchronized. We're ready for Phase 3. Min-seok hesitated. Phase 3 was humanity's ultimate gambit. Something so dangerous that even their own allies didn't know about it. But as he watched Devourer forces break through defensive lines, he knew they had no choice. "Do it," he said quietly. Across the galaxy, every human suddenly felt a connection they had never experienced before. 4 billion minds linked together through quantum consciousness technology, thinking and acting as one vast intelligence. It was humanity's greatest secret. They had evolved beyond individual consciousness. Ko Dong-min felt the connection activate on the command station Unity. Suddenly, he could sense every human in the galaxy, every thought, every plan, every desperate hope for survival flowed through his mind. But instead of chaos, there was perfect harmony. The effect on the battle was immediate and stunning. Human ships across the galaxy began moving with impossible coordination. They attacked from multiple dimensions simultaneously, appeared in several places at once, and struck with timing so perfect it seemed supernatural. The Devourers had faced many civilizations, but they had never encountered a species that could think as one while maintaining individual creativity. Human tactics became unpredictable because they came from billions of minds working together. "How are they doing that?" Admiral Kexavai asked in amazement as he watched human ships phase through solid matter to attack Devourer weak points. "They're sharing consciousness," Song Mi-young explained over the communication network. "Every human in the galaxy is thinking, together. They've become something new." In the Vega system, the tide of battle began to turn. Devourer ships that had seemed unstoppable were being contained and destroyed by the coordinated assault. But the enemy wasn't finished. From the dark, space between galaxies, something massive began to move. It was the Devourer mothership, larger than entire solar systems, carrying enough power to consume reality itself. "New contact," reported sensors across the galaxy. It's the size of a star system." Jae-hyuk looked at the readings and felt a chill. This was beyond anything they had planned for. The mothership could probably destroy the entire galaxy in hours. But then Song Mi-young smiled. "Sir, this is what we've been waiting for. All these years of preparation, all this technology. It was all designed for this moment." She activated the command that would reveal humanity's greatest secret. Across the galaxy, space itself began to change. What had looked like empty void suddenly filled with structures that dwarfed even the Devourer mothership. The Council species stared in amazement as massive rings of metal and energy appeared around every star. These were humanity's true fleet, stellar engineering projects that had been hidden for generations, weapons built on the scale of solar systems. Dyson spheres, whispered a Vextar scientist. They built weapons around every star in the galaxy. Not just weapons, Hyojin corrected from Earth. Think bigger. The stellar weapons began to fire, but not at the Devourer mothership. Instead, they fired at space itself, creating a network of quantum fields that connected every star in the galaxy. Reality became solid, unbreakable, impossible to consume. The Devourer mothership struck the quantum barrier and stopped. For the first time in cosmic history, something had blocked their reality-consuming attack. Now, Jae-hyuk commanded. Every human ship, every council vessel, every weapon in the galaxy fired at once. The coordinated assault struck the mothership with the combined power of an entire civilization. But the real attack came from something else. The focused consciousness of 4 billion humans, all thinking the same thought at the same time. You cannot have our galaxy. You cannot have our future. You cannot have anything. The Devourer mothership, a creature of living darkness that existed partially outside reality, was suddenly forced completely into normal space by the sheer power of unified thought. Trapped in 3 dimensions, it became vulnerable. The explosion that followed lit up the entire galaxy. When it faded, the Devourer threat was ended forever. Silence fell across the communication networks. Then, slowly, reports began coming in from across the galaxy. The enemy was gone. Every Devourer ship had been destroyed or driven back into the void between galaxies. On the command station Unity, Jae-hyuk allowed himself to smile. All stations, this is Supreme Commander Im. The war is over. The galaxy is safe. The celebration that followed could be heard across space. Every species, every world, every living thing in the galaxy rejoiced together. And for the first time in 250 years, Earth began broadcasting openly. Music flowed from the hidden planet, along with art, literature, and philosophy that had been created in secret. The galaxy learned what humanity had become during their long silence. Not just warriors, but poets and dreamers who had never stopped believing in a future worth fighting for. Admiral HFY stood on his bridge, listening to human music for the first time. It was beautiful and complex, full of hope, despite everything they had endured. "Admiral," his communications officer reported, "we're receiving a message from Earth. They're inviting representatives from every council species to visit their world." HFY nodded. "Signal our acceptance, and prepare a formal apology for doubting them." On Earth, in the underground cities that had hidden humanity for so long, children were learning something new. They could finally go to the surface. The Chai long hiding was over. Han Ji-woo stood in a garden beneath Seoul, watching as the ceiling opened for the first time in 250 years. Sunlight poured down on flowers that had never seen the sky. Around her, humans and aliens worked together, building a future that belonged to everyone. "What happens now?" asked a young Kethri, who had come to learn about human culture. Ji-woo smiled. "Now we build something better. A galaxy where no one has to hide, where every species can contribute their gifts, where the next threat will find us ready." She looked up at the sunlight streaming down from above. "The galaxy is safe. Our children will see the stars.